we're going to be doing something a little bit different because, as I mentioned last time, I was on a trip to Portland, Oregon for a window restoration conference, and I took a bunch of clips while I was there. So let's jump right in and talk about all the adventures I had this weekend because it was a whirlwind ride. It was a lot of fun, and I'm quite excited to share it with you. As you can see, I brought my English paper piecing on the plane and got actually quite a bit done on that because it is a fairly lengthy flight across the entire country to get to Portland. So the guy next to me looked at me like I was, couldn't quite figure out what I was doing, either the sewing or the filming of the sewing, but got a lot of work done and it is looking really, really good. Some of you might even see some of your fabrics in here because I have started adding in even more thrifted fabrics beyond just what I have in my stash. Here we are, landed in the gorgeous Portland airport. There is so much wood here. I love this bike assembly area. That made me giggle pretty hard. And we decided to rent a car for, I think, the first time in my life that I've rented a car. It was super snazzy, way fancier than anything I am used to. And the very first thing we did was head into Portland proper because I really wanted to check out this store right here. This is Hippo hardware, and I have heard a lot about it actually from a couple of my viewers. A couple of viewers mentioned this to me, and boy howdy did it absolutely live up to its reputation. This was such a fun store. So it is old hardware, architectural salvage. We didn't have, nearly as much time as I would have liked in this place because I'm pretty sure I could have spent all day in this store. So not enough time and definitely not enough money because I would have loved to buy so many things in here. As you can see, it's quite large. And it is just filled with a fantastic selection of toilets and bathroom hardware, that goofy little rooster thing. You could just get lost in this place in all the various little nooks and crannies and poking around. You will notice as we go through here that they have a pretty hilarious sense of humor. They are not taking themselves too seriously, which I have to say is actually another thing that they really have in common with the first architectural salvage store. Oh, here's Phil, also not taking himself too seriously, working on his clowning act here. But yeah, a lot of these stores, all of them that I've been to so far, they have a really great sense of humor and really have fun with the goofy signage and just being, kind of wacky and quirky. This one, being called Hippo Hardware, it has the hippos all over. I'll have a montage of that shortly here. But yeah, it was just so much fun to poke around all the salvaged windows and wood molding. Oh, here we go. Got a hippo here. This is the beginning of the hippo montage, all shapes and all sizes. Most of them looking very sassy. I'm sure that, they are the hippo people. Everyone who works there probably gets hippos from all their friends because they know that they work at Hippo Hardware. Also, this I had been in the store for a shockingly long amount of time before I noticed the giant Paul Bunyan legs hanging from the ceiling. Just some fun examples of their wacky sense of humor here. But basically, we poked around here. I think we were only here for about an hour and a half. We were trying to make sure that we beat the rush hour traffic out of Portland because we still had a 2-hour drive without traffic, but we definitely did have to swing by the upstairs level, which the entire level is their lighting floor. And I thought the first salvage store had a lot of lighting, but this Hippo Hardware put it to shame. They have so many lights on display. Literally the entire second floor. It is massive. They have all types of lights. The selection is fantastic. I can't tell you how the prices are because I don't really have a good feel for the value of things. And also I do feel like antiques, the pricing on antiques is really, really regional. But you will see I did kind of find a boob light here. I kept my eye out for, the proper colored boob light. All I managed to find was the, Wicked Witch of the West color boob light. But I was not disappointed in terms of just selection. You'll see I took a lot of these fun lampshade images. Both Charlie and I have been wanting to do some lampshades, so I was really excited to see these, including this last one here, which if you'll notice, it actually has some 3D elements, which I thought was really, really neat. I've never seen that before. So took all of these and then immediately sent a bunch of photos off to Charlie to say, look at all these, look at this amazing inspiration. So yeah, just had a really, really fun time poking around there. And when it was time to leave, it had just started raining and then it quickly turned into hail. And that kind of set the tone for the drive out to Astoria, which is where the window conference was. It's a couple-hour drive, and on that couple hours we had sun and then rain and then sun and then hail, which turned into snow, which turned back into sun. We basically had all 4 seasons in the course of the 2-hour drive, which does seem to be fairly typical for the area, but it was an absolutely stunning drive. It's always beautiful. The most gorgeous hiking that I've ever done, besides Norway, was in the Pacific Northwest. And while the weather might be dancing all over the place, I was well prepared for it, thanks in part to today's sponsor, Quince. Now, I've already showed off this rain jacket from them. I was originally drawn to it because of this stunning burgundy color, and it came in super useful, is both attractive and incredibly practical in the perpetually drizzly Pacific Northwest weather. I paired that with these super comfortable 100% linen drawstring pants, and then for some dressier indoor layering options, I have this linen long sleeve shirt or my beloved cashmere v-neck. They're both 100% natural fibers, so they breathe and they feel great on my skin. Same with this cotton canvas jacket. It's got this lovely burnt sienna color, and it is the perfect weight for this sort of in-between wintry spring, can't make up its mind weather that we're having right now. So if you'd like to check out their clothing, or if you want to see any of these items for yourself, you can shop Quince by using the link in my description box or the QR code on screen, and you can get free shipping and 365-day returns. All right, back to the field trip. So here you go on the drive out to Astoria, which you have to drive on this really, really long bridge to get out there, which we thought was kind of quirky. And then here's the other bridge, a different one that is right next to our hotel. So arrived there and discovered that there was an absolutely lovely view out the window. We also had great dog content in the morning. Everyone came and walked their dogs outside the window. Just arrived and hotel room is great. The view is amazing. And now we're just gonna go meet up with the other people. They have like a little snacks and beer meetup session planned at the bar down the ways. So that's what we're gonna go do. This will be fun. If I can find Phil. Also, I think I just found someone else in our group. So yeah, we just headed on down to that local bar, caught a beautiful rainbow on the way. That was, we took it as a good sign for the weekend to come. And didn't really shoot a lot of footage. Actually didn't shoot a lot of footage of the actual conference itself. I just felt a little bit weird kind of filming a bunch of people. So here instead is the Short Circuit House. I was unaware of this TV show, but Phil, it was like a staple of his childhood, and the Short Circuit House is here. If you've ever seen it, you can go back and look at screenshots and you'll realize this is the same house. So Phil was quite chuffed about that, took some pictures and sent it to his brother and his father and said, guess where I am. Do you recognize this house? The next morning, waking up bright and far too early thanks to jet lag. Another beautiful view from the hotel room. Had a quick breakfast and headed over to the Elk Lodge, which is what they were renting out to host this window preservation workshop. You can see here we've got some vendors that have set up booths in the entryway here. This is the CEO from Indo, who we met the night before. I was already familiar with Indo's, and so it was really fun to get to chat with him. He found it amusing that I knew so much about his product. But yeah, then we were, served coffee and given a lovely welcome speech from the various people running the conference, as well as one local preservationist who talked for about an hour on the history of Astoria and their preservation attempts throughout the years. And then the various conferences started. So again, like I said, I didn't want to take too much footage, but it was really fun. We did some stuff with linseed oil paint. We talked about lead and OSHA requirements. Not that I have to worry about OSHA standards myself, but it was interesting to learn about them. Lots of good information. And then at some point there were a couple slots for conferences that were directed at professionals, specifically like people who ran their own window restoration businesses, which obviously is not applicable to Phil and I. So instead, we hopped in the rental car and just cruised around the area, checked out some of the cool architecture, which, looking at this footage, I somehow didn't capture any of the really cool houses that we drove by. I must have been just too busy looking at them to film it. But we also decided to go up to the Astoria column, which you can see right here. The original speaker who gave that hour-long talk was part of the preservation team that restored this, maybe, I forget how long ago, in the last 15 years. And so climbed all the way up to the top of that, which admittedly has a stunning view. So you can see how Astoria is really kind of surrounded by water here, including, you're going to see all the ships, yes, waiting to go out to sea. So that was a lovely view, nice little bit of exercise. We went back for one more conference, and then there was an organized walking tour by the window restoration guy. He's a one-man shop who was hosting the event in Astoria, so he kind of gave us a local walking guide, and then here brought us into a church where a local historian is talking about the history of the church. And this had the coolest feature here. Some of the pews come out of the baseboards. So the baseboards literally hinge up, and you can kick the legs out if you need additional seating, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. Everyone's minds were blown. So, and then you saw, some gorgeous stained glass window. Here are some more lovely looking houses and a great view on the hill.
How's everyone feeling? You've all been sitting all day. Yeah. You've been exercising that brain. I was going to take us all out.
Continuing on the hike, looking at some more stunning architecture and some interesting paint choices, and then the hip breaker slide. Now, unfortunately, I had just gone down before Phil, and I had the right pants on, and I flew down it. He unfortunately got a bit stuck, however.
There you go.
That was so anticlimactic.
Yeah, you had the right pants.
And then the last pit stop on our way back to the Elk Lodge was the Flavel house, which Phil and I thought was so interesting that we actually toured it the next day, but not that day because we had to rush back to the conference for the Glaze-a-palooza. So they decided to have a glazing competition. They unfortunately ran out of tables and windows to glaze, so I think only about 8 or 10 people got to participate, but it was quite fun. A bit of a rowdy crew. There were plenty of sexual innuendos flying around as people rushed to glaze their windows, being judged not only on how fast they could do it, but also how nice it looked when they finished. And I just thought it was so fascinating to see the wide range of techniques. These are all professionals in their industry, and yet not a single person had the same technique. Also, please appreciate the disco ball for ambiance. I thought that was a hilarious touch.
Yeah. Scott's got glasses.
Then the next day, because nothing more happened that evening that was worth filming, so the next day headed back into the lodge for a couple more conferences. These were a little bit more hands-on. So the main one that I thought was super interesting was they did a workshop on linseed oil paints, which is something I am super interested in, even though I don't know if my budget will allow for me to use it on my house. But it is much more ecologically friendly, also much more historically accurate, but slightly more finicky to use. So this woman here is quite an expert in it. She's actually running a really fascinating series of field tests on how well linseed oil holds up in numerous different climates and different brands of oil. It's like a super scientific experiment that she's running, working with the national park systems. Knock on wood that, who knows how the funding for that is going to go. But anyway, she is hosting a workshop so that people can try it firsthand, those that have not worked with it, because like I said, it is quite different from working with regular paints, and it can be a little bit more finicky. And then once again, during another slot where there were no conferences directed at us, we decided to take a tour of the Flavel house because it was open for a few more hours, and it just looked so fascinating. The architecture from the outside was so captivating that we really wanted to go check it out. So here's me just googling over all the lovely touches, including this original tile work here just on the entry mat. And then, I'm just going to show you some shots from the inside. Please admire the 14-foot ceilings and the lovely parquet flooring here. And then the pocket doors. This is me being really excited about these huge and super thick pocket doors. That wall is nearly a foot thick just to accommodate them all. And then, this actually, it was Phil that spotted this. This is an original antique sewing bird, just like the one that I have and made a video on my channel. I'll try to remember to link that in the description if you want to go watch my video about that, because that also has some very interesting history. But Phil saw that and pointed it out. I thought it was amazing. Here we are now in the library, which I thought it was just so cozy. The ambiance absolutely on point, plus 10 out of 10. Excellent use of sconces. This room also, so I've kept finding myself drawn to the servants' quarters. I don't know why. I love the opulence of the public areas, but I also am really just drawn to the back end where things are a little bit more simple and utilitarian. So I kept wandering around all the servants' quarters. But yeah, here's Phil fidgeting with some hardware and then looking at these stunning, again, almost 14-foot, probably more like 10-foot doors. And just look at that wainscoting. Absolutely gorgeous. The fireplace, which Phil is about to ooh and ah over here.
Yeah, he started us on everything.
They're so pretty. And then these shutters, take a note at them, all the shutters on the house, in fact, look like this. And they are all, every last one of them, pocket shutters. So all of these shutters, of which there are many, many, if you look at the exterior shot again at the end of this sequence, they all fold into the wall, just like a pocket door, which is such a nice little touch. Just exquisite craftsmanship. They told us how much money he sunk into building this house, and I forget how much it was, but it was, needless to say, no expense was spared. I also thought it was pretty cool that they also have some hidden wallpaper under there. You can see this is obviously salvaged under many, many layers of paint. They've kind of saved it to preserve it, which I thought was a really nice touch.
That's a fun detail. The chain goes through the glass.
Cute. Fail. And then look what I found on the way out right next to the exit. It is a hall tree with some coat hooks that look shockingly like the ones that I just purchased. So this kind of confirms our theory that when the manager of that store said they were for a coat rack, he really meant a hall tree, because that just makes infinitely more sense. And one last parting shot of the Flavel house before we headed back to the hotel. And then the next morning, before we had to check out, we decided to go for a little walk along the marina, which was really cute and, you know, quite quaint. Had a lot of the classic boardwalk features that one would expect. And then there was this.
God, how did you get there?
This was rather unexpected. I mean, we knew that there were sea lions and we could hear them from quite far away, but we did not expect there to be a perfectly curated seal shelf. So basically what we could figure was that there's this odd platform here. It was not originally built for the sea lions, but it's no longer in use for whatever its original purpose was, and at high tide, the sea lions can jump up on there, but then the tide goes back out, which is what has happened right now, and they kind of end up stranded on there. Not that they can't get down, because they can, but then if they're down, they can no longer get back up. They have to wait for the tide, and that seemed to be the cause for some concern amongst some of them. And then at the end of the boardwalk, we kind of stumbled onto the Maritime Museum, which was quite fascinating, well worth the money if you are ever in Astoria. It was only something like $7. You can get a combo pass that combines the Flavel house and the Maritime Museum and one other like film museum or something, and it's only like $14. Really great deal. They had a ton of information here. We had not planned to visit this museum, so we had to kind of rush through it. Definitely didn't do it justice. I think we only spent about 45-50 minutes there, but it was super interesting. Learned a lot about all the shipwrecks that happen in the Columbia River right at the mouth of the ocean, because it is an especially treacherous part of water. And yeah, then we headed back out, got back on the road, went back to the airport to return the rental car. Phil flew off to do some other things. He's got some other business locally. And I went and met up with one of my patrons who lives quite close to Portland, Oregon. And we had just a ton of fun for a day and a half. Her name is Mary, so she took me around first to the architectural salvage place near her, which is not Hippo Hardware, but unfortunately it was closing quite quickly. So we had to leave, but we will be back. And then we headed to the Pittock Mansion. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Pittock. It was another stunning example of turn-of-the-century architecture. This is where a lot of the historical costuming ladies in the area will go for their events and for photo shoots, and you can absolutely see why, because it is magnificent and opulent and the perfect backdrop for a costuming event. I personally fell absolutely in love with these puzzle piece tiles. Those are reproductions, but here you can see the original flooring, what it used to look like. And then the last thing we did on that day was head back to the architectural salvage store. Actually, it was the next day, right before I headed out, and I got a few better shots. So we checked out, they have like a second barn, a second section that all of this is in, and just so many lovely pieces. These are more like the larger furniture and fretwork, stained glass. Oh, so much lovely stained glass. Really had a super fun time poking around. So I'll shut up and I'll let you watch what some of the beautiful things that were in this shop. And in the end, I did not walk away entirely empty-handed. I did pick up something. So the fixture itself, very plain, basic, little bit industrial looking, but works really, really well with the light itself, which is this. It's so simple and yet so intriguing to me. I don't know, I just really fell in love with it. You can see the clip of them in the store here. So I don't know, I just feel like they're very neutral and yet have a lot of interesting character to them. So I love that it's got like a little bit of an industrial vibe, but also a little bit of an Art Deco vibe, but it's also like kind of neutral because, I mean, let's be honest, I love all the period lights, like this one in particular. Absolutely fell in love with it, and if I had a spare $1,000 laying around, I probably would have snapped it up, but I don't. So this felt like, you know, a good compromise. It was kind of neutral, but also, you know, interesting. Oh, I think we have a corgi. Corgi, come here. Easy. Good girl. So yeah, picked up 2 of those and then managed to get them back with me safely on the airplane. And I got them back in and I am incredibly chuffed. So those will probably go in the kitchen a long ways down the road once we get to the point that I'm actually putting light fixtures into rooms and into kitchens. But I'm gonna wrap it up and sign off. Go maybe pack these back away. Oh, that was a fun shot. Here.